you give them something to eat. Every time I hear this particular passage, that line hits me in the face. The disciples obviously see a problem and they think Jesus is the cause. We're way out in the wilderness, we don't have much to eat, and there's a whole lot of people who are hungry, so send them away. And Jesus is like, no, you give them something to eat. Do they not want to share what they have? Are they afraid they won't have enough to eat? So they say, but Jesus, we have nothing.
Except for 5 loaves and 2 fish.
You can imagine Jesus rolling his eyes and saying, nothing? 5 loaves and 2 fish is something. Give them to me. And then he takes them, and he breaks and blesses. That pattern should seem familiar, right? We do every Sunday. And gives it back to the disciples and says, you give them something to eat. And so it's the disciples that feed the 5,000 people, not Jesus. Jesus has shown them how to do it. And because they took their food and shared it, for a moment, everyone else there must have experienced some kind of abundance as well. And either the food multiplied or people's generosity did, and everyone had enough to eat. So much more that there was 12 baskets of food left over. I wonder if we should call this story not Jesus feeds 5,000 people, but Jesus shows his disciples how to feed 5,000 people. They were the ones that did it. Taking, blessing, breaking, sharing. We probably recognize that pattern. We do it every Sunday right here in Eucharist. Now, usually when we celebrate Eucharist, we remember another story, the Last Supper before Jesus died, a different story about feeding, usually to remember Jesus' death. But isn't this story also Eucharistic? Taking, blessing, breaking, sharing food, an experience of divine abundance. It has a different quality to it. It's not a meal that helps us remember the night that Jesus died, or the night before he died, but it is a meal that points towards something else, a divine abundance so great that you can't contain it, that there's so much to go around, there's more left over, you can even feed the women and children with it. Every time we tell that story, it says something else about Eucharist. Not so much remembering Jesus' death and resurrection, although we still do, but a sign of the reign that he meant to start, as if we're being trained to do the same thing, to give them something to eat. And even though that other story of Jesus' Last Supper is just with his own friends, this is a different kind of meal altogether, isn't it? A more open table where everyone is welcome to eat. What would our Eucharist be like if we told that story every Sunday, along with the story the night Jesus died? How might it look a little different? And I think it's worth asking, because there's always a little bit of a danger. It could be that we might have tamed the Eucharist just a little bit by putting it inside a beautiful building and surrounding it with beautiful music and with candles and sometimes smoke, although we've never done that here, and use bread that doesn't quite look like bread anymore, or a table that gets so far away that we call it an altar now and not a table, or even that we use plates and napkins and things that are just a little bit too far away from the ones we use at home. There might be very good reasons for doing all those things, as long as they don't let us forget that among many of the ancient Christians, our forebears, Eucharist was a meal at a home table from which the poor were fed every Sunday. That sometimes in some communities, when you came up for communion, you got a wedge of bread to eat for the rest of the week. And that bread, along with whatever greens you had, might been your food for the week. That's also a part of our tradition of Eucharist, that we would give them something to eat. I wonder if that's something we might think about as Trinity begins to reflect on what comes after Tricon, for example. There were times when this meal did indeed give them something to eat, once a month in Food for Thought. What would it be like to let this story start to stir in our imaginations, start to help us imagine how this Eucharist might give them something to eat, literally? Diane and I were talking last week about that empty space at Tricon and looking at the abundance that keeps rolling in, all that rummage, clothes and housewares, all kinds of things. And we imagined for a second, what would it be like if Trinity decided to take that Tricon space and make something like a free store there, where there would be clothing and housewares and things, and maybe once a month, anyone who needed to could come and shop and take what they need. Maybe on that Sunday there would be a bigger coffee hour and they could have breakfast. Maybe we would gather food items again and anyone that showed up could take a bag of groceries as well. Trinity could give people something to eat and wear and make their homes more livable. Can you imagine? How might we let Jesus' invitation, maybe even his command, shape how we serve our community, shape how we celebrate Eucharist, so that we can answer in a very specific way his command that we would give them something to eat.